ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Archery Geek TV's first video podcast. I'm really excited about that. Today, we have a very special guest all the way from Denmark, Jens Fudge. Jens Fudge, a archery coach in Denmark that has also written a book on mental management and choosing to be a champion. Jens, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'll do that. Well, thank you very much for having me here, Tim. It's going to be a great pleasure, I hope, to be on your first video podcast. So I hope you have very great success with it. So, oh, yes, actually explained, I'm actually currently in Denmark. This is where I live. I'm Danish. So I live here in Denmark, and I've been a coach for a couple of years now. Before I was a coach, I was shooting myself, but that was back in the late 80s and the mid 90s. Apart from being an archer, I happen to be also disabled. So being an archer who happens to be disabled makes me eligible for going to disabled competitions. So I
Cool.
I won in 1992. I won the Paralympic Games in archery. So that was kind of the highlight of my career in archery.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, that kind of brings me to the first question. What changes have you seen in para archery since you started competing?
Well, there has been quite a lot of changes because when I started, the rules were kind of met to be able so that the disabled archers could compete at a certain level. But the rules have changed a little bit for at least for the Paralympic Games. So now the rules are exactly the same rules as they are for able-bodied archery. So everything that's on the Olympic Games, it's done the exact same way on the Paralympic Games at the moment. So, of course, there are a few minor adjustments. They are into groups, so the competitors don't actually compete on an unfair level. So when I was shooting, there were three groups, and one group was the tetraplegics, who has the tetraplegics. They've broken their neck somewhere, so they have lost movement in arms and legs. And we have the paraplegics. They have broken their back somewhere beneath the shoulder line, so that they have actually full movement of the arms, but might have different balance issues, because if you're broken up here somewhere, your balance is way off. And that was the two major groups. Then there's the rest, and that the rest is actually called in French les autres, which just means the others. So everyone else is in one group, but basically everyone else is something like you have lost a leg or lost two legs, but you might still be able to stand up or something like that.
Lost arms,
or lost an arm, or lost two arms.
Yeah. But that's really good to hear that the para is basically the exact same rules. Obviously, there are going to be some equipment changes.
Yeah.
Somebody with no arms has to use a harness,
of course,
and the release and stuff like that. But so would you say that the para archery has become more mainstream here in the United States? That really seems to be the case. I'm seeing para archery this, para archery that, this tournament, that tournament.
Well,
they're definitely being more inclusive.
Sorry, in Denmark we don't have very many para archers. There is only kind of a handful or something at the moment. So under 10 at least. But Denmark is a very small country. We're 5 million people in the entire country, and we have 2,000 archers in the Danish Archery Association. So here it's a small sport. So we're not many people here in Denmark.
Oh, okay. So, but Have you seen it in any of the other, like the more national and international events, like the World Cup?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There are disabled archers all over the place at the moment, of course. Yeah.
Oh,
But
that's good.
one of the things about archery is that even if you are disabled, you can compete in able-bodied tournaments without any problems.
Yeah, I
We
saw
see
that
that all the
a
time.
couple years ago. Matt Stutzman, the quote unquote armless archer,
Yes.
he beat an able-bodied archer, and the guy doesn't even have any arms. So
Yes. That can
um,
happen. Yeah.
it, that's the one thing I love about this sport is that the greatest athlete on the planet can lose to somebody that's been confined to a wheelchair for their entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
true.
it's it's truly one of the great equalizers.
Hmm.
But you wrote a book.
I did. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about it.
I can tell you about that. I can also show you the book because obviously I've prepared it. So I brought the book with me here so you can
Oh,
see
you're
it.
getting kind of a glare. Angle it a little bit. There you
There
go.
you go. So you should be able to see it now, right?
Yep. Good
So,
shit. Good.
so the title "Choose to Be a Winner" is I've chosen this title because I have the belief that if you want to actually win in any sports or in your life, you have to make that conscious decision that you are going to be in charge of what you're going to do. Instead of just taking your head off and stick it under your arm. I don't know if that's a saying in the States, but that is definitely a saying here in Denmark. You do something with your head under your arm. That means you're not thinking about it at all. You're just doing it. So I think you have to consciously actually do something to become that winner.
Yeah, I think we call that like putting our head in the sand here.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
about the same thing.
It's like you kind of ignore what's going on and you're just part of the cog in the wheel. You don't
Exactly. Yeah. So
versus
I
consciously
wrote.
choosing to be something better. Okay.
Yeah, I wrote this book because I wanted to help a lot of archers that struggle in the mental game of their sport, and I wrote it in a fashion that anyone can use it, even non-archers. So if you play golf or tennis or whatever your sport is, you can just swap the word bow for tennis racket and then the word arrow for shuttlecock or whatever your sport is.
Oh, neat.
And
That's unusual. Many times we have a lot of different books here in the United States by a
Mhm.
lot of different archers. Um, and some of them are very technical.
Yeah,
Some of them are very ethereal and metaphysical to the some of them are there's very few that do kind of the both sides of the issue.
yeah,
um, and they are they're great books and I've read a lot of them, but they don't translate well to somebody who doesn't already have an understanding of what the book is trying to say.
yeah.
um, but you your title,
Yeah, choose to be the winner.
what do you think about this statement? Okay. um, every arrow has a positive. Find the positive.
Yeah, well, um, I've I don't know exactly what that means or where you're coming from, but if an arrow has a positive when you've shot it, I'm assuming you mean when you've shot the arrow, you're
Yes.
going to either hit the target or you're going to hit something else than the target. But no matter what, you're going to learn something from that arrow because as soon
Right.
as you've released it, you're going to have to experience what happened if I had my loose wrong. It might fly off to the side or whatever,
Right.
or it might even hit the center of the target. But you'll still learn something about it.
Yeah, kind of
From
what I mean by that statement, and I use that a lot with my particularly my youth students, but
Mhm.
also my adult students, is that that positive can be like, oh, my feet were in a good position.
Oh, okay,
My
yeah,
my
yeah,
the string came right off my fingers exactly right. Doesn't matter what happens downrange.
exactly.
Just because that arrow is sitting in the wall behind the target butt
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that it was not a well executed shot. It just means that you need to adjust to
Something.
what you did.
Yeah.
And okay, so you went off to the left of the target and hit the edge of the target butt instead of the target face.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now reposition yourself a little bit, but
Yeah.
you still had a positive experience with.
Oh yeah.
I believe it comes from a mindset.
Yes.
When you're learning, you can tell yourself that, oh, that wasn't a bullseye. Dang
Mm-hmm.
it, I need to try harder to get the bullseye. Or you can
Exactly.
say to yourself, hey, that arrow didn't go where I wanted it to, but I had a really clean release, or I had
Yeah.
a really clean, or my stance was perfect, or I wasn't leaning. You can find a positive in any shot, and that programs your mind for the next success
Yeah.
versus programming your mind for negative reinforcement. I
Yes.
didn't get a bullseye. Dang it, I need to try harder.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a similar approach, actually. It's not exactly the same statement, but it's more or less the same statement when you think about it, because I say to archers, young archers, as well as adult archers, that there's only one important arrow in a tournament, and that's the one that's currently knocked.
Right.
So as soon as you've shot it, it doesn't matter anymore. It's shot, it's somewhere. It may have hit the target, it may have hit the grass, it may have hit a bird in the air, I don't know. But it's gone and you can't do anything about it. So the next knocking arrow is the most important arrow in the entire tournament. Not even the arrows I'm going to shoot this afternoon or tomorrow or in 2 minutes. The one
Right.
arrow that's currently knocked is the only arrow that actually matters.
Right. And you can always find a positive in the end result of that arrow,
Sure.
even if it's not the positive that you want.
Yes, exactly. And also, it's the same as when you say, I did not hit the bullseye, I did not hit the center of the target. A lot of people are going to try to focus on, I need now to hit the center of the target. But that's kind of doing it in the opposite order, because you shoot the arrow and it'll hit something. You
Right.
don't hit something first and then shoot it. So your mindset has to be on your body and on your movements.
Right. One of the things I like to tell my students is I don't care where your arrow ends up downrange, as long as
Mhm.
it doesn't kill somebody or go out a window.
Yeah.
Um, but I want you to get the process. Process will produce results.
Yes.
Results do not produce process.
Exactly, exactly. And I really am. I'm happy that you're using the word process, because I know that you haven't read my book because I didn't send it to you yet. But I use the word process also in the when you're setting goals for yourself. So you can go to a tournament and you say, I want to set a goal for myself. So what's the goal for this tournament? Well, the goal could be to win the tournament, or the goal could be to, in a 720 round, you can say, I want to have 650 points on this round. They're both actually valid goals, but neither of those goals are goals that you actually can influence, because if you want to win the tournament, you cannot influence anyone else. So you have to make sure that you're the best one there, but someone else might be there and you have no idea. So actually you cannot influence winning the tournament, yes or no. It's the same with how many points you get. I of course know that you influence the execution of the shot and it's going to land in the middle of the target, or close to the middle of the target. But actually, you have no influence on where the arrow is going to end up. You have only influence on how to execute the shot.
Right.
So the goal of a my tournament should not be ranking or points, but it should be, how do I execute my shots? What do I do for myself for this tournament?
That makes a lot of sense. That brings me to another question that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, do you notice that the psychology changes between someone who's working through target panic or someone who's just starting out and wants to maybe get to the Olympic Games. Is there some changes in the psychology in the way that you would handle somebody who has 30 years of experience and all of a sudden they can't hit the broadside of a barn versus somebody who's never even had a barn to shoot at but wants to get to an Olympic competitive level?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because if you're a new archer or even an old archer and you want to go to the Olympic Games for compete at that level, that's a wish or a dream that you have, and then you can work against it and work towards it. And there are many different ways that you can actually make a plan, make some goals, and make some smaller steps and some milestones and whatnots. And I've described a lot about that in my book and how to get from, oh, my goal is to go to the Olympic Games. Well, that's a really, really
It's a big goal.
far-fetched goal if you're just starting as an archer. So, okay, maybe I should learn how to hit the target before I actually want to go to the Olympic Games and
Right.
take it in steps. But the target panic is more, for most people at least, the target panic is a neurological thing. Because when you have your 30 years of experience, you've probably shot 100,000 shots or probably even more. What you do is you're kind of training your brain to do the exact same thing every time. So for instance, when I was shooting, I shot the recurve bow, of course, and I shot with a clicker. Now, most archers I know that shoot with the clicker use the clicker to trigger a shot. So I know it's in the book, it says it's an indicator of that you have drawn your arrow at the correct length. But as soon as it clicks, you let go. And the reason you let go is because you have programmed your brain to let go as soon as it clicks. Now, there is one thing you need to do. You have to shoot the clicker and don't let the clicker shoot you, because you have to be in charge of when the clicker goes.
Right.
If you do that, you'll get a triggered response in your brain and it'll be an automatic shot. Now, you trigger your brain while you're shooting also, because when you come up to a draw and you start aiming, so you have a picture in your eyes where you're aiming at a target, and maybe you're anchoring, you've got the string aligned up to your nose and your chin and whatever. That can, because you've done it so many times, be a trigger to your subconscious to, oh, you have to let go now, because you come up to a full draw, and as soon as you hit your chin with the string, you let go. Or maybe you're afraid to shoot, so you will not go through the clicker. That's because you're triggering your brain into trying to perform the shot faster and more optimal than actually your conscious brain will allow it to do. And your subconscious brain will do this in around a half a second.
Yeah. What I describe to my students is that target panic is at its core a conflict between the conscious and subconscious minds.
It is. Yes, it is.
And
exactly.
that the conscious mind is trying to control things and the subconscious mind is just doing what the subconscious mind does.
Yes.
And
exactly.
Basically the conscious mind starts to take over your process, and you're like, this doesn't feel right, that doesn't feel right, and you just have a complete breakdown of your process. Okay.
And
so I'm
more
on the
or less,
right course.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff also goes on if you get to a tournament and you find yourself in a final, because then all of a sudden you're kind of thinking, oh, now I have to perform better than I usually do, because now I have to beat my opponent. But it's impossible to perform better than you are. So you just have to realize and accept that you have to perform your archery and your execution of your shots to the same level as you always do.
Right.
You cannot be better than you are. You want to be.
I like that. But you can move that bar down the road in small increments.
And you can improve your archery, of course.
Yeah.
But at any given tournament, you can't say, just because now I've beaten one opponent in a final, now I have to be even better. That's not going to happen.
No, and there's a martial arts saying, I'm not sure where it came from, but basically there's always somebody better than you.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And it doesn't matter who that person is. There is always going to be somebody that will beat you.
Hmm.
You will never beat everybody all the time.
Hmm.
And one of the things I try to teach my students is that rule number one of archery is safety,
Hmm.
obviously. And then rule number two is have fun.
Yeah.
And then when I have a family or a group of friends standing there, my next rule number three is wherever that arrow ended up is exactly where you wanted it to go.
Oh yeah, sure.
So,
So shoot the arrow and then put the target up after that.
yeah, like that one cartoon that I've seen. It was several years ago, back when Brave and Hunger Games came out.
Yeah.
How does your book help me manage? Let's say I'm dealing with target panic. How does
Yeah.
your book help me manage my mental game to get through this?
Well, now you're talking about target panic. There is actually a chapter in the book exactly on target panic. And
Good.
because I believe that target panic is somewhere in between a neurological problem, like what I was just explaining, but also it could be a slight case of performance anxiety or something similar to performance anxiety. So what I would do is I would well, first let me say what I would not do, because a lot of coaches I hear say, well, you have to shoot on a blank target butt because it's the target face that is going to trigger your target panic. So I have to get rid of the target panic by shooting at a blank butt without any target face on it, which I believe is wrong. That's kind of having arachnophobia. You're scared of spiders, so you move to a place there have no spiders, and then of course you're not scared of spiders
Well,
anymore.
I think what happens in the archery world, and I get where you're going with this, because we have one thing that it doesn't get under my skin or stuff, but I find it, and I have to explain it more to people, that nomenclature has an effect.
Hmm.
When we have a lot of compound shooters with, and bow hunters, and so they have the release aids and and one of the things that we have said for years is that you want a surprise release. Well,
Yeah.
people misinterpret. I have to tell my students, no, you don't want a surprise release. You want the release to be a revelation, because you're so focused on your process and your target
Hmm.
that you just don't realize the shot went off. You know it's going to go off, so it should
Yeah, of
never.
course.
And
Yeah.
surprise is a fight or flight reaction
Hmm.
to an outside stimulus. So
Hmm.
if I sneak up behind Jens here and go boo, Jens jumps and looks around and doesn't.
Yeah.
So it should be a revelation that the shot has fired. Should be aim, 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 aim. Oh, the shot's away.
Yes.
Versus bam. Oh yeah, wow. I didn't even know that was gonna happen.
Hmm.
And I spend hours every year trying to explain that to
Hmm.
particularly experienced shooters, that revelation is different than surprise. And
That's true.
um, so it's so back to the managing your mental game.
Hmm.
um, how else does the book help me deal with? I'm going to assume, because of the way I am and the way this conversation has been going, is that a positive mental mindset is the ultimate goal of your
Hmm.
book.
Yes.
And so I'm brand new to the sport of archery. I've shot my first arrow. It was fun, but I'm not getting anywhere from here. How do I maintain a positive mental outlook how does your book help me do that?
Well, if you're a brand new archer and you've shot a couple of shots, then either you, well, my experience is either you like it or actually no, you love it, you love archery, or you think, nah, archery is not really for me. And if you do love archery, you're going to keep on going by just
Right.
that. But where the book comes in for helping the mental game on any archer, actually on any level, this book, well, not the book itself, but my version of mental training for different archers. I have helped elite archers at a very high level, and also helped archers at a lower level, maybe even beginners, because you need to have the positive set of mind. I've seen so many archers standing on the line, shoot an arrow. So now this is a movement that all archers do whenever they speak. So you have a full draw, you shoot the arrow, and then I see archers go because they did something not good. They missed the 10, they missed the 9, whatever they did. So they're signaling not only to their competitors that they're in trouble, but they're signaling to themselves that they're in trouble. And they're really signaling to themselves that this is bad. So a lot of people will not only just shake their head at themselves, but they will actually verbally speak
Ingrain
to
it.
themselves and swear or whatever they're doing. And one of the groups of archers that I was training, I said, just for fun, now you shoot and I will comment your shooting. And there's this young girl, she shot a couple of shots and I was really abusive. I was saying, you're such a bad archer. You should never be here. And I was saying that and everyone was looking at me, what is he doing? And I said, is this the correct way to behave from your perspective to a friend or a teammate or even an opponent? And they all agreed, no, that's a terrible way. You should never say that to an archer. So I
Then why
said,
would you say it to yourself?
why do you say it to yourself? It's stupid. And then I
You
started
know,
up
I
a
never
club.
thought of it that way. That's actually a really good point. I
Yeah,
never.
why? Why? Because everyone knows you should not say it to anyone else that way because it's demotivating. And of
Yeah,
course, it's going to be demotivating saying it to yourself.
I did have one student, well, father and daughter students. Every time I would compliment, either one of them would fire a great shot, get a great group, whatever, um, get a good score. Every time I would compliment them,
Mm-hmm.
they would blow like the next two ends. And I mean, so I told them, I'm done complimenting you.
Yeah.
Now on, just remember, you stink. And then all of a sudden we're right back into the group again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, and we do it all in fun, obviously, and they know that we are when we're saying that to them that we're actually very proud of them. So,
Of course. Yeah.
you got to be have everything in context.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so your book points out things like that. If you
Yeah.
wouldn't say it to somebody else on the shooting line, why are you saying it to yourself?
Yeah.
I like that. That's great. I can't wait to read this book. I'm gonna have to order it tonight.
Uh,
Um,
I also have a couple of good hints here on the same level because by having the positive attitude at yourself, you can also, when you're at a tournament or even at training session, and if you have a really, really good feeling, do something to remember that feeling. Like if you're outdoors, pick up some grass and rub it through your fingers and smell it. When you have a really, really good evening at the
oh
archery
yeah,
practice,
and
because
ingrain a
if you
mental
get to a
trigger.
tournament, you pick up some grass and you smell it and you can remember, oh yeah, this is great. I'm having a great time here.
I you know, I never really thought about that before. But there are times, and I'm sure you experience it too, when you get a whiff of a certain plant or something, and all of a sudden you're a little kid at your grandmother's house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that you haven't noticed that smell in 40 years, and all of a sudden boom, you're right back at your grandmother's
And
house.
you remember, and it's a lovely time, and you remember the warmth and the love and everything that you got from your grandmother's house. And you can do the same in archery in an active way. You can kind of smell the grass and taking all of the emotions that are there, feel the warmth from the sun or whatever is going on, and just take something positive every time you have a positive experience. So the first time you shot 310s or whatever, then you
Yeah.
remember that feeling. It's so awesome.
Yeah. You know, that's going to start being part of my classes. That's not
Right.
something I did. Um, what got you interested in the mental game? I mean, and you wrote a book about it, so you obviously had to spend a lot of time delving into the mental game.
Yeah.
So, what actually got you interested in doing?
Well, that was my own archery career because I picked up a bow the first time in 1987, and I had a go at this archery stuff, and I fell in love with it straight off. 3 years later, I was at the first World Championships, and I was shooting pretty good before I went to the World Championships. But at the World Championships, I shot significantly worse than I used to do, and I mean, I was horrified how bad I was shooting. Um, so I was first thinking the bow's broken or something else is broken, but I measured the bow with the brace height and the knock, everything, but everything was fine. There was nothing wrong with the bow. And then I thought, well, it was me. I was doing something terribly wrong with my
Oh,
arms and
it's
my
never
feet.
it's never the archer that's the problem. The archer
No,
never does
that's the
anything
thing.
wrong.
So when I went back home after the World Championships, I was back to the same level as I was before I went there. So I thought, well, there was only one thing that was changed, I've never been to the World Championships before. So it had to be something that was going on inside of my head. So I started reading up, and this was, of course, before the internet. So I had to go to public libraries and borrow books and read paper books and stuff like that. And I started really looking into mental training. And then a year later, I went to the European Championships, and then I had it nailed. I really had it nailed. I was so prepared that it was so good, and I won the European Championships. And then looking on to the Paralympic
Kind
Games
of
in
faded out there.
sorry,
You faded out. I can't hear you.
can you hear me now?
Your volume is down.
Let me adjust. Can you hear me now?
It's a little bit better.
Um, we could start the interview. Well, not start the interview over, but start the Zoom meeting over.
Um,
Can you hear me now?
yeah, it's getting better. It's getting
Okay,
better. Okay.
there's something wrong between. Well,
Between the United
whatever.
States and Denmark. There.
Something's happening. Yeah. Well.
Now you're back up to full volume. Okay.
Oh, great. So you'll just cut that bit out. So
Yeah, probably.
okay. Otherwise, just leave it in. That's fine. It's just
Leave it
technical.
in. Deal with the technical difficulties.
But anyway, when I went to the Paralympic Games, I had trained mental training at least half an hour every single day before going, and I was 100% sure that I was going to shoot my best at the Paralympic Games, and I did.
And that's what got you started in sharing that information with other people.
Yes,
Awesome.
and then
That
around
is
10 years ago or so, maybe a little more, no, around 10 years ago, a group of young archers asked me to do a mental training workshop with them. One of them is actually on the cover of my book, this girl here. That's Maya Jaeger. She won the World Championships in 2013.
awesome.
So, yeah, that was pretty good. And then a couple of years ago, another friend of mine asked me to help coach some kids that were going to the Nordic Youth Championship. So I helped coach them also. And then I started
Great.
writing. I thought I was going to write a leaflet on mental training, but when I went to reach around page 25, I thought, this is more than a leaflet. This is a book.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much we don't understand about the brain and the mind as it is, and then trying to put it into a context to help you stay positive and keep your archery career moving forward.
Yeah.
That's definitely a full book. Tell us a little bit about how to, I'm sorry if I seem to drift off and on. I had a stroke in 2018, and sometimes my brain, I try to do these things, unscripted, because it challenges me to keep my brain focused in that. So,
unscripted makes it better anyway.
Yeah, but if I seem to drift off or tip my head for something, it's I had a stroke. I'm lucky that it wasn't worse than it was. So, forgive me if I seem to drift off.
No problem.
How would somebody get your book? I mean, I'm in the United States. Can I get it on Amazon or through?
It is actually on Amazon. And it's
okay.
on most of the different Amazons throughout the world. There are a couple where, for some reasons that I believe has something to do with shipment and the current COVID-19 thingy going on. So I know for a fact that currently you cannot get it in Australia, but I'm working on getting it to Australia some other ways. But I found out I cannot even send anything to Australia at the moment. And same with South Africa. But if you're in the United States, just go to Amazon.com and look for the book there. There's also my own website about the book that is just choosetobeawinner.com. And if you want it in English, then you put /English. Otherwise, there's a menu item and you can just go hit English and then it'll get the English version of it. But just choosetobeawinner.com. And in there you can see where you can buy the book. You can also, of course, order it directly from me, but then some postage and packaging and shipment expenses is going to come on top of that. So
right.
And the price of the book is, I don't remember what it is in US dollars. I think it's around $78. It's $29.99 British pounds.
Let's see where let me see it. I'll look it up.
So yeah.
There we go. I got the links now.
All right.
Amazon.com is the USA link. It's showing at $37.79 through Amazon. So
yeah,
$38.
Yes,
$38
exactly.
for.
Yeah.
And is that a paperback or a hard copy?
That's a paperback.
Okay.
Yeah, but also you get access to, of course, the website where there's at the moment you can download a training journal in PDF for printing out yourself.
Awesome.
And there's also some audio tracks on the website to help you get started with mental training, because mental training and visualization and stuff is kind of a hard, fluffy thing to do until you get the grip of it. If you want to cardiovascular train, you go for a run. If you want to train your strength, you lift weights, and you can feel progress because it's gonna hurt. But if you start mental training, it's kind of hard to, okay, I'm going to mental train. I have to think about something. What do I think about? So I've made some audio tracks to get you started on mental preparation and mental training too.
Just don't get me onto quadratic equations and all that algebra stuff.
Oh, well, no, I would not do that. And as I said, there's one of the major parts of mental preparation I found out is actually having a training journal.
A training what?
Journal. So it's a
diary.
Yeah. So I put a PDF version of a training journal on the website that anyone can download. You don't even have to buy the book. Just go to the website, download the PDF, print it, and you're done.
Oh, cool. By the way, folks, we will be having the links on our Facebook pages and our other social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. When this video is uploaded, they'll also be at the end of the video, and this will be included on our YouTube channel as well. So thank you all for tuning in. And I hope you're definitely considering buying Jens' book. He comes from a place of knowledge, and he comes from a place of service. So he's not making a killing on the book.
No.
But he is sharing information that is 10 times the cost of the book. I mean, you're going to get so much out of this. I've gotten a lot out of it just from this conversation. And tonight I'm ordering the book off of Amazon. I can't wait any longer. So, Jens, you got anything you want to say? Or Jens, you got anything you want to say before we close out the interview?
Well, not really. I want to, of course, thank you very much, Tim, for having me on this podcast here.
Thank you.
It's been a blast meeting you.
Yes, I have enjoyed our conversations immensely.
Great, me too.
And to actually be able to do it face to face.
Yes.
Virtually, anyways, it's an honor to have you on the show. I'm glad you're my first video podcast. And I hope you saw a whole lot of books, because I have a feeling that this book will help you, like you said at the beginning, help you in any pursuit that you're going to do in life, whether that's opening a business or passing the 12th grade or moving to a new town and making new friends.
Yes.
I think
it's all about the attitude.
Yeah, it's all about, I have a very, very good feeling that this book is more than an archery book. It is a lifestyle book.
Yes.
And I'm looking very forward to reading it. All right. Hey, everybody, we're going to close out. Jens, I'll be splicing together the intro and the exfil for it. And then we'll upload it onto our sites, and I'll email you all the direct links and everything so you can share it on your social media.
Sounds good.
Sounds good? Great. Thank you so much for everything, and I will see you all later.